company is based in San Francisco, and what we do is run an A/B testing program for a bunch of different clients. So the clients that I manage are Tory Burch, Airbnb for Work, Viking Cruises, and a couple others. But we're responsible for leveraging the tool Optimizely to run these A/B testing programs.
I love Optimizely.
You use Optimizely?
That's a great platform.
I think we're probably biased.
Is that your baby?
I think it's our best. I think it's the best in class offering, not just because of the price tag, but it's just because of the robustity of all the different bells and whistles on the platform. So there's a bunch of different tools I'll get to in a minute you guys can be leveraging, like BWO, Google Optimize, Adobe Test and Target, but for the purpose of this presentation, I'm coming at this from an optimizing perspective. Just a brief little background about myself. I studied undergrad at University of Rhode Island. I played college tennis there. And then I got my MBA at Boston College in product and brand management. And since then I've been working in the product space, working for companies like Staples, Wayfair, and now at Prometrics. The big topic of today is we're going to talk about how A/B testing can unlock the full potential of your growth program. Today's talk is going to cover a bunch of different areas, and here's what I've got slated up for the next hour and a half. I'm going to give you guys an introduction to A/B testing for those that are uninitiated, and talk about who Prometrics is and what we do. My company's been around for about 8 years, and it's grown sizably as our client base has grown. After you do that brief little introduction overview of testing, I want to talk more specifically about why growth experimentation is so important. It really helps you achieve your business goal and better understand the behavior of your user experience. If I could have an alternate title for this presentation, it's bullet point number 3. What you want to do is do the thing that makes the money. And not necessarily like financially for yourself, but thinking about it from the lens of your clients. How can you ultimately build a feature, build a product that's going to tap in to the business goal that you're trying to achieve? And you might not be able to do that overnight. It sometimes takes months, years even, to do that. Once I cover those first 3 items, I'm going to pivot over to best practices for A/B testing. I have a bunch of different lists and processes that I personally go through, so I think that's going to be very helpful to you guys. And then I'll talk about some case studies. This is not going to be an hour of me barking at you. There's going to be some interactive sections where I'll ask you guys your thoughts and see if you guys can pick the winner of specific tests that we've run historically. And then towards the end, I'll wrap everything up in a nice bow and send you guys on your way and give you guys my LinkedIn information to stay in touch. This is an experiment that I ran for the client Airbnb, but in summary, what this slide talks about is what A/B testing is, and this is the Google definition. It's a randomized experiment with 2 variants, A and B. It includes an application of statistical hypothesis testing as used in the field of statistics. The thing of what Google doesn't tell you is that it's not just A/B testing. What my clients do is a lot of multivariate testing, so testing multiple elements on the page, or even ABC, ABCD testing, so testing multiple variants. What's really important here, this is a really basic example. A/B testing can be something as simple as just tweaking the taxonomy or verbiage on a call to action button, or something as robust as overhauling the entire page itself. So a lot of my clients that are brand new, I'll start them off very simple. I always preach this like crawl, walk, run process, where you start off very slowly with lower complexity test fields, then you work your way up to the higher complexity experiments. But this is just a good example of a very simple, straightforward A/B test. Actually, this is the variation that lost. Learn more lost.
Wow.
We iterated, and what won was get started. And the reason why we got that insight is because another client of ours, Uber, has a very similar CTA. We plucked that off, peeled on the site, showed a 15% lift in conversion.
Basically, I had heard in the past that learn more is one of the worst CTAs.
It is pretty bad, yeah. I think it was like about a 7 or 8% decrease with significance. So, lesson learned. But ultimately, all the experiments you're going to be running, they're not all going to be winners. You actually learn more probably from your losses than you do in your successes. So, I think that was a very interesting insight there, but it helped us fuel V2 of that. Prometrics, if you guys are familiar with us, our team is completely remote. We have a team of about 30 engineers, about 80 of us in total, and so we're located all around the country. We do about, I'd say about 1,000 to 2,000 experiments a month, and so far we've launched 10,000 plus to date. And we're a strategic partner of Optimize. I'd say we're the #1 partner, but there's a couple of other partners that work with them. But we leverage them exclusively for all of our clients. This is a snapshot of an Optimizely dashboard. So when you log into the tool, it's pretty sophisticated, as you probably know. What you guys have to keep in mind here is that when you're setting up all of these metrics in the UI, there are different logic that goes into them. So you can set up business goals specific for each client. Let's just say, for example, you have a client like Tory Burch. Their focus is on revenue and conversion. So you want to make sure you include all those story metrics within each step of this optimized dashboard. I'm just going to jump over here really quickly. On the left side of the UI, you can see when the last publish was. You have the ability to pause the experiment, view it in preview mode, check out the audiences. So for this example, we've excluded internal IPs and launched it specifically on desktop. So you have the ability to manipulate which devices you want to be using, how many visitors are in the experiment at the moment, and also where you're exactly targeting. At the top of the UI, you have different filters. So you can segment your data by dates, by different types of segments. So you can look at paid traffic, you can look at different device types, and you can also just see the baseline data versus just only the variation data. In this example here, I've set up add to bag clicker as well as order confirmation or conversion for this experiment. And you'll notice that when your metric has reached full significance, it's declared a winner. So this line is green, shows a 2.2% improvement, higher conversion rate, and that's declared a winner. If it's declared a loser, that line is red, you see a negative number. You don't like to see that often, but it can be very important. Oh, by the way, I'm going to go back really quickly. In addition to Optimizely, I'm going to talk a lot about how awesome it is, but that's not the only tool you can use. You can also use VWO, Adobe Test and Target, as well as Google Optimize. They're very strong tools, but I feel like Optimizely has the most completeness of offering. That's why we use it. So this is a key slide, and I want to just really drill down into this because a lot of this specific talk is about how do you use data. But ultimately, Optimize is a tool that's telling you information about the user experience and the customer journey. And ultimately, you want that data to tell you what your customers want. And that will drive your products forward as well as the vision for your site experience. What's really key to focus on the thing that makes the money is that you want to make testing a part of your core business strategy. It's another lever you can pull in addition to leveraging site analytics data like GA or Adobe Analytics. And it's only going to give you more down funnel insight in how users are interacting with a specific part of the experience. What data will help you do is identify the most important metric. So we can do an optimized set of a primary metric, which is the key thing you want to look at when you're running an experiment. And that'll tell you a big portion of what you're looking to learn about your users. But it's the most important one, but it's not the only one. You want to set up multiple secondaries too to complete that full picture. And what we also believe to be very true, is that when you test more, you learn more about your users. And when you do that, you're able to unlock the full potential of a growth program. Very important thing. So this slide is something to keep in mind as you move forward. If I was to outline one core process that I follow, it's right here. If you're in sales, they always say, what? Always be closing, right? In the experimentation world, we believe they should always be testing. Now, I want to just draw your attention to the top of this, this cycle. When you're starting off on day one as a new product manager running a growth program, what's really important is to come to your client with a lot of really strong ideas. So ideation is probably my most favorite part of my job because I get to look at a website and figure out where can I optimize, where can I hack growth. My title is a product manager, but I'm really a growth hacker. I'm figuring out what has worked for other clients previously and how can I implement that on that current client project. So ideation is step one, and I think it's probably the most important one, but also the most fun one. Once you have your ideas, you got to then organize them. So then you go to the next step, which is planning. This is where you create a roadmap, you figure out what the vision is, do I want to test things this week, this month, this quarter, this year. That's when you do all your prioritization. Take your ideas and you plan them, then you got to work to build them. Not every tool that you're going to have is going to be as robust as Optimizely. So to really tap into the full potential of Optimizely, I have to leverage a developer for every single test I build because it's super complex. And what they do is help me set up the metrics, QA the test, and make sure that all the logic is built to my specifications. So that's step 3. Once you've got those 3 steps under your belt, then you're ready to launch an experiment. I would say typically in terms of turnaround time for getting all these 3 steps completed before we launch, typically in the range of like 2 to 3 weeks. So you start with some ideas, talk to the client, pitch the client, they give you feedback, they approve it. You start to drive the test forward, you build it, you find bugs, you fix them, then you launch. Probably about 2 or 3 weeks to build that out. So a normal sprint. And then you launch the test. Just because you launch the test doesn't mean that it's over. This is actually when all the fun stuff begins. This is when you have to learn. You have to learn more about your users and how users are interacting with that new experience. So let's say, for example, you have a baseline, you have the current homepage, and it's a brand new, beautiful homepage. But you want to figure out how users are interacting. So you have to set up click metrics on each part of the site and figure out what that true engagement number is. And that leads ultimately to the last step, which is analyze. So you get those insights, but you can't just stop there either. You go to the next step, which is iteration. So you take those learnings, you figure out what worked, what didn't work, and you drive that V2, V3 forward. Chrometrics isn't the only company that's doing this. A lot of different companies that are at the top of their industries are doing this. For example, we have Amazon, Google, YouTube, Facebook. I'm sure you guys know this guy. He walks through flames. Jeff Bezos, he also comes in and he blows up industries. And he believes that testing is a core part of Amazon's strategy. So you can see the quote here. Our success at Amazon is a function of how many experiments we do per year, per month, per week, per day. So during the busiest seasons of the year, Prime Day, Black Friday, they're testing. They want to figure out what the unique blend of experiences to get you to buy more. Hey, it's got me. I spend so much money on Amazon, it's not even fun. In addition to Jeff Bezos, you got Zuckerberg. He's also a key component of testing. He believes the following. The strategy of Facebook is to learn as quickly as possible about what our community wants us to do. And that requires a culture that encourages people to try things and test things and fail. And it also requires building infrastructure to enable people to do that. So if you guys don't listen to this, it's the Master Skills podcast. It's a really good podcast with Reid Hoffman. And I highly recommend it if you guys don't listen to it. But key here, testing is valuable for Amazon as well as Facebook. Why don't companies do the thing that makes them money? Here are some of the reasons why. I'm not making excuses, but this is some of the logical things. But key is that many companies aren't embracing experimentation as quickly as their competitors are. Why? Testing and research has historically been difficult, expensive, time-consuming, unreliable, complicated. So that's why a lot of companies don't adopt this right away. Also, it requires speed, so you gotta be able to turn tests around quickly, as well as infrastructure. My clients leverage Chrometrics because they don't have the development resources to build these experiments themselves. They may have engineers, sure, but they don't have the time to dedicate to building out these complex, intricate experiments. And last but not least, also cultural blockers that can encumber testing, adopting testing right away. Who's got one of these in the mail? I got a bunch of these in the mail. These are now dinosaurs, and Bed Bath & Beyond is slowly pivoting away from those 20% off, ugly, huge coupons towards what the digital equivalent will be. But for the most part, what I'm about to get into here is a lot of clients, a lot of sites, they believe in one way of doing business, but that way of doing business is not changing. You have to evolve with the current landscape that the industry has. So the approach that Bed Bath & Beyond is very old, and it wasn't really data-driven. And a lot of companies don't adopt it because they're like, this is how it's always been done. Why are we going to change? People still redeem them. But the reality is that everyone's going digital. I was talking to someone over here about this before, but there's been a nuance to what a lot of companies do in terms of their strategy for their businesses. A lot of it has been dictated by a bunch of old white guys in a boardroom. They're like, hey, this looks really good. Let's do it. Instead of being data-driven. Gavin Belson, I don't know if you guys watch Silicon Valley like me, but yeah, same way. Let's do the box 3, and he has a vision for the product of how it looks like, but it's not data-driven. It's not supported by information. And that's what I want to really emphasize today, is that you want to make all your decisions data-driven. Even when you guys are have a creative function, specifically looking at like the UX and UI of a site, testing should always be, creative direction should always be data-driven as well. It's just an interesting marketunist.com image by Tom Fishburne, and he's getting thrown out the window because he just says that he wants to test the creative. A lot of companies aren't willing to do that. I work with clients that have very specific brand guidelines. So if I'm building out an experiment and the font size is off or the weight is not there, they're going to say, hey, we don't give you approval to launch this test. It's got to be all to our brand guidelines. That's fine. But a lot of these companies have a traditional creative know-how about how they're ultimately driving things forward. But at the end of the day here, the big takeaway is that even the creative functions should be data-driven. All right, here's a little fun break in the lecture. I'm going to test your knowledge. So by a show of hands, you guys can just vote on which variation you think won. And so this is for one of our real estate clients, Coldwell Banker. And so I want to see how good you guys are guessing which experience wins out. So this is the control experience, or variation A. As you can see here, this is their app. Notably, you have the image that with scrollable chevrons. Just below, you have some information about the property, as well as these 4 icons that I've highlighted. And so here you have like icon of a heart, kind of like a do not cross logo with a question mark, as well as an envelope or email icon. So this is the baseline, take it in, and then this is the variation. Simply, all we've done is add a label below each icon. Nothing else has changed. Same image, same copy, nothing else has changed. With that said, show of hands, A is the winner. Is it unanimous? Everyone thinks B?
Well, like those icons don't even make sense.
I know,
Like question
exactly.
mark, that was horrible.
That's
That
exactly.
question mark was supposed to be bad.
Listen, I gotta give you a couple softballs to
Okay,
start.
thank you.
That's a softball.
Okay.
I know. Just give me a softball.
Thank you. I'm so
Saw
glad.
300% increase in conversion, and so that ultimately drove more contacts there. So the conversion rate lifted about 0.66% there.
So what, was this a live experiment that you did, or
I'm sorry?
was this a live experiment that you
This
guys
is an
did?
experiment that we ran.
Okay, so when you guys looked
This
at
is the control experience on the website,
right?
and that was the experiment.
So did you guys have to come up with the variation B, or was it suggested by non-intelligent person?
So we did come up with this through ideation. So we said, what do these mean?
Okay.
So you look at the experience and you ask yourself, from the lens of the customer, what am I doing with these buttons? Where am I going? And so this was like one of the first tests that we said, I have no idea what that question was. And so if you add contact to it, that means, hey, I'm going to reach out to a live agent or reach out to a rep and get a quote on the or learn out more about that specific property. So when you're going through the experience yourself, like you can go on any site, I can pull up the site right now, we can analyze it ourselves. Think about it from who that customer is, right? I'm thinking like my mom. My mom's like a 55-year-old woman, she's looking for a house. She'll have no idea what that question mark means. She'll be like, am I lost? I'll click on that button. Yeah.
And on average, how many variations do you build for a specific?
Good question. Well, it depends on the traffic.
Okay.
So if you're a e-commerce giant like Tory Burch gets millions of visitors a day, you can do multivariate. You can do 4 variations, 5 variations. But if you're getting, like I'd say, hundreds of visits a day, lower traffic client, you want to stick with an A/B test, so 2 variations. And it's going to take time for that test to get to significance. So like Tory Burch, we get the stats say within a couple hours. I usually run it for a week at least, but you get to significance much more quickly with the amount of traffic you get. But for lower traffic clients, keep it simple. You can run an ABC test for them, but it'll take a long time to understand the trend of behavior. Test number 2, slightly more complex. This will require a little more thinking. But this is for a media company that we work with. So 3 variations here. So we tested multiple ad blocking messaging, all right, ad blockers. And so variation A, B, C. I'm going to give you guys a second or two just to digest it, just read them, and then we'll talk about which one won. Also keep in mind the call to action button on the right side of the screen too.
So media, you mean like, let's just say CNN or something like that? You're saying that?
Yeah, well, the company, Turner Broadcast.
Oh, well then that is more just like.
Yes.
B.
So B, we're gonna get there in a minute. You won that. So you spoiled
That's so
it.
much copy.
Yeah, that's so much content.
So
I
okay.
can't believe I wins with that much copy.
So we're gonna double click into that one. You chose B. Why did you choose B? Why did B win?
So
Compared to A and C.
So it's clear. It's there because oftentimes you are not able to access sites which have good content because you would be blocking it with ad blockers.
Yeah.
So I mean, it has to be clear to the user that unless until you unblock it, you won't get this free content.
That's good. That's a good explanation. We'll go to you.
The fact that it is mentioned free content, like as in it's a freebie, as in like something additional or a reward.
Well, that's definitely one part of it, but also think about the first sentence compared to the other two. We notice that you have an ad blocker enabled. You've informed the user, and then what you've done is offered them. So please whitelist us. We continue to provide you with free content. Like, oh wow, light bulb goes off. So they know they have an ad blocker enabled. They've informed you, and they told you the next step to follow. Option A, please disable your ad blocker for the optimal browsing experience. How do you do that? I don't know what they're talking about. Your ad blocker may cause the site to load incorrectly. Duh. Okay. Easy. So B is the clear one. And so what we saw here, compared to, actually they were all winners compared to the baseline, but A was 41% increase, C was 38% increase, but you saw 109% improvement for that messaging for option B. So good call.
Not on the mobile ones.
That was for desktop. That was for desktop
So
only.
long.
I didn't run that test, but that was for desktop.
Did you guys try that with the whitelist site option? Because you had whitelist mentioned on the statement. I would think, I don't know how many people know what whitelist
Yeah.
is.
I know.
That's a really good question.
That's why
Whitelist
I
site.
do like A.
I don't want to lead you astray. I don't have all the details of that one, but I would say that's a really good follow-up. I'll have to get back to you on
Because
that.
I would read that and then I'd be like, how do I whitelist something? Where do I, go?
Yeah.
Like your mother wouldn't know that. My mother would not know what that is.
Exactly. But I think the key here is that you had informative verbiage followed up by the offering of free content, which was much more clear compared to the other variations.
This is why you need testing.
This is why you need testing. We're going to pivot now to how do you develop strategic customer insights that drive growth. I'm not sure how many of you guys are with heat mapping tools, but one of the big ones that we use at Chrometrics is called Hotjar. What this does is if you insert the code on the site, it'll give you click data, scroll data, and see where users are ultimately interacting with the parts of the site. As you can see here, I'm not sure which client this one was, but you see there's a lot of interaction with this apply to join CTA, which is the main call to action of the hero. But then as you see up here, there's also a lot of engagement in the top half. So you see the employer, about section, as well as sign in. They're getting a lot of clicks. So this is interesting, right? Because you're seeing that this is probably the hottest spot, and you can actually get it broken out by percentage, how many users are clicking there. But I can tell you, like, let's say, for example, this button right here is a very important CTA. Why are we just clicking on there? So maybe in an experiment, you want to de-emphasize some of the other CTAs to drive more engagement to where you really want them to click. Or maybe tweak the verbiage, make the taxonomy more clear and defined. So I think that heat maps and tools like Hotjar are one of the most important tools to have in addition to optimizing.
So, I mean, I used Hotjar before, but I actually didn't know what to do about it. Like, okay, I see that.
Yeah.
I understand what you just gave us as an example, but I'm like, oh, yeah, I mean, people press on the buttons. I mean,
Yeah, so you get to see
So-
the effect, you get to measure the effectiveness of that experience that you've tagged through Hotjar. And so what that can ultimately tell you is like, okay, I'm getting 25% of users clicking on this CTA. Awesome. But maybe you want like all users to click on this button.
yeah,
So maybe to de-emphasize everything else and just focus on just the
like a
CTA.
landing page, yeah.
Exactly. So here, let's just say that this is 25%. That could be 8%, 7%, 9%. Maybe you want to kill all those.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, if you do that, it's going to have a lot of ramifications. Users won't want to be able to sign in, learn more about the company, but you'll drive to the CTA. So that tool can ultimately tell you how to shape the experience.
Okay. This is not the eyeball thing. There's also an eyeball thing, right? Where did you look on this thing? This is just where did you click, Hotjar?
This is just where you click. Have you used it before?
No, I haven't.
It's a cool thing. You can demo it. There's a 30-day free trial.
Oh, okay, cool.
You have to ultimately insert the snippet on your site,
Sure.
but it's a great.
Okay, cool.
Google Analytics, show of hands, who uses this on a daily basis, or Adobe Analytics. This is one of my favorite views. You get to see the funnel of how users are going through specific interactions, like just looking at a landing page. But coupling Optimizely and Hotjar with this is giving you more of that full picture of how users are interacting throughout the experience. Maybe you're getting users to second interaction, but you're noticing a massive drop-off. So when you're going to ideation and thinking about testing ideas, maybe you start there. Like, wow, in step 2, users are dropping off. Let's focus on optimizing for step 2. So tools like GA can drive you in that right direction. We're talking a lot about, before with Lucinda, about getting customer testimonials. I worked for the company Staples for a long period of time, and we were pivoting from traditional retail to e-commerce retail. And I found that talking to users is one of the most valuable insights that you can have when you're creating a site experience. So the closest thing to that we found is usertesting.com. And it helps us get more descriptive terminology about how to leverage content or messaging on the site. So here I just underlined, for example, it feels very much like a partnership. This is a feeling. You're tapping in to what users are saying. You don't have to even come up with marketing creative. This is it. Customer, this is the voice. They talk about voice of the customer. This is the voice of the customer. And so tools like this are extremely, extremely valuable to drive your testing roadmap. This is just an example of Thompson Safaris. This is actually a client way before my time. But what we ended up doing was creating a tailored experience based upon inbound traffic sources. We talked about the importance of specific traffic channels, whether you're getting it from Google AdWords, from Facebook, from paid search, whatever it is. You want to focus on driving the experience based upon that traffic source. This is just one example, but I can skip to one that's more relevant. I work at this company called Viking Cruises. They get a lot of Facebook traffic. So you have like these 50-year-old mothers, like my mom, that are wanting to go on a cruise. And so what do? They look at Facebook. They're like, where are my friends going on cruises? Or where do people go on cruises? And so if you go through a specific funnel on Facebook, we're going to serve up a unique experience that drives them directly to a booking page for that cruise they were looking for. So serving up a specific experience based upon traffic channel is going to ultimately move that needle up and to the right for conversion. So that kind of goes into like personalization a little bit, but those elements are key to really have another lever to pull to drive that conversion rate up.
So can you like just drill down a little bit more into that? So Facebook, right? So you're saying that somebody's like seeing somebody's post on, like going to Berlin or something and on Viking cruises. So does that mean you actually have a Berlin page that you bring up?
So here's how we will work technically. What we'll do is set a cookie in the user's browser. Mm-hmm. We know that if a user is coming through Facebook and they've seen this page, we'll associate a cookie to their browser so that when they click on a link on the Viking page, they're going to be served up a unique experience.
And what is that unique experience?
So it could be a different landing page. Let's just say, for example, this is Viking Cruises. This is VikingRiverCruises.com.
Yeah.
And then right here is VikingRiverCruises.com/cruise destination that they found through Facebook. Alaska, whatever it is. And so what we'll do is we'll identify the cookie, we'll flag it, and then we'll populate this experience when they land. They're supposed to land on the Viking River Cruises page. They actually land on this unique cruise-specific landing page. So we identify the cookie, we serve up the experience, and we try to get them to stay within the funnel.
How do you think of the thousands of different locations that people want? Or I mean, it can't be like you're like, okay, we want a Berlin page, we need a Norway page, we need a London page.
So that really dovetails into personalization, right? So we understand specific preferences of users. So we know based upon certain attributes that they're assigned that they are looking for a specific experience. So taking those variables in mind, we're able to serve up the content like recommendations, Like, hey, we know that you've browsed like Berlin trips. Like, we're gonna give you only Berlin like product tiles that are gonna have that cruise destination on it. So,
Well, if you had a PPC ad for Berlin, obviously you take them to the Berlin page.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's no brainer.
Yeah.
Is Prometrics also doing personalization?
We do personalization, not for every client, but for select clients. It's an upcharge.
What tool are you using?
We use Optimize.
It does
Yeah,
that? I never really
personalization.
thought of it that way.
Yeah, but it's an add-on.
Okay.
Pivoting over, this is a great example of an iteration, right? So what we can do is take this example. So I'm sure you guys have maybe been to like financial services sites. You see this like scrollable meter, and you can choose like a specific dollar amount. We've actually tested this as a variation. We've found one. There was an instance we saw it lose, and so what we ended up finding is that users were very confused by this sliding scale. So what we ended up doing was breaking it out to be much more self-explanatory. So instead of this 1,000 to 100,000 sliding scale, we ended up breaking everything out into specific CTA buttons. So breaking down the debt amount from like less than 5,000 to 1,000 plus. And we found that by breaking it out, it gave users the ability to select the exact range that they're in, and it drove a 20% increase in conversion. Maybe from a design perspective and a user experience perspective, this looks a lot cleaner and a lot cooler. This looks a little bit more cumbersome and visually it's a lot to take in. But guess what? That won.
Well, it depends on your audience, right? I mean, if you're talking young people, they're probably going to want that one. You know, I'm not sure.
That's the key, right? Is understanding who's interacting with it. So this client specifically, I think they have an older demographic, and so having that broken out, like, I know you're following me. Go for it.
So I just wanted to ask you a question on the conversion.
Sure.
So do you guys run the variation on a live site to calculate the conversion?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Everything we do is on production.
Okay.
So there's multiple environments that clients will have. They might have a staging environment, a QA environment. We might build the test there,
Right.
but ultimately we want to get it on prod.
Right.
So that's what the track is coming in from. And so what you find is that when you're running the initial build the experiment, you can technically test it in staging or in QA, but it's not going to give you sometimes the back-end code of production is different. So you're going to have different behavior. Let's just say like in staging, like if you scroll or hover over a CTA, it might like animate, but if you go to prod, it's going to be static. So you want to test it in a live environment so you can understand like what's that exact behavior. Because that might make a difference. Like those little changes might make a huge difference.
I see one clear difference in the left one and the right one.
Talk to
The
me.
right one is saving time. In the left one, let's say you have to choose 75,000, you have to start there and keep on scrolling.
Yeah, you have to be
So-
specific, right?
Yeah.
Very specific with your movements.
So users nowadays are looking to save more time. Like even if a second gets wasted, I don't want to click on that.
That's exactly right.
So I think that's the clear difference.
That's exactly right. Are you an analyst?
Yeah.
That's a really good insight. I can tell.
Are you always doing a 50-50 when you have AB?
No. So here's the thing. You want to split it evenly, but there are certain use cases where a client will say, you know, Mark, we're rolling out this brand new feature to a mass amount of traffic. Let's go with like 10%. So maybe they do like 90% to the control, 10 to the variation. They might want to do a slow rollout. I'd say those use cases are more few and far between. A lot of people want like an even split. So that's the best way to analyze the data, but there are instances where you want to throw all the traffic one way or the other.
So what happens when you already have customers that are already using your product, right? So then when you're rolling it out, you now have to choose what customers do I affect. And when you choose what customers you affect, you have to choose what version you're going to pick, right? So do you choose some customers that either buy more and then you go, all right, I'm not going to touch those guys.
Totally. You focus on, sometimes you want to cater your experiment to first-time users or return users. You want to serve up a specific experience. What's great about optimizing, which I'm not sure other platforms have, is attribution. You can say, okay, for example, I know that these users are second-time visitors to the site. Therefore, let's really get them to purchase. Let's give them a 30% off modal or like a pop-up window, you know? So you want to focus your experiment builds towards those specific audiences. That's a really key point. And a lot of the times, clients are like, hey, we just want to throw this test to everyone. And a lot of times I'll push back, I'm like, listen, I don't think we should give this to like first time users because they're not going to know what to do. So you got to really understand your demographic, as well as like understand like the knowledge of your client. You know, some of them they know their clients inside and out. Others don't have any idea, which is why they test with us to learn them. But I think what you brought up is a very, very key point. Making sure the experiment is built in a way that's going to hone in the right message to the right users at the right time. So that's a key point. So this next section is going to talk about how we can kickstart a testing strategy that creates a culture of experimentation. As we talked about, like focusing in on the thing that makes the money, you want to identify what that key KPI is. For Facebook, daily active users. Uber, weekly rides. For Airbnb, it's nights booked. For us, it's how many tests we can run. And so what we do to pretty much prioritize our entire roadmap is follow this RICE method. It stands for reach, impact, confidence, and ease. So this is just a good example of like if you have a split of device types, let's say you have 70% of your traffic on desktop and 30% on mobile, you want to focus on one of those specific audiences. Now, just a question to the audience here, why would you focus on one or the other? Why would you focus on 70% over 30%? Why would you want to focus on that for an experiment?
Well, those are two totally different things.
For
I mean, you can't test the homepage CTA button equally on those, because the CTA button on the mobile is going to act very different than it's going to act.
So the question is, let's say for example, 70% of your traffic is coming in through desktop.
Yeah.
Why would you want to run a desktop exclusive experiment versus a mobile exclusive experiment? Yeah.
How much is it going to cost? This is going to be way cheaper if you're focusing on what you're actually, the ROI.
Cost is one part.
Customer base, we have more.
Customer base. So you notice that like users are able to purchase more. It might, let's just say for example, desktop, your users are converting the most. So you might want to squeeze the most juice out of that channel by testing there. But you're noticing that mobile is a huge trend. Users are spending like 4 minutes on mobile, but like 2 minutes on desktop. So maybe there's an opportunity for you to like drive conversion. So that's one way. Anything else?
Well, since that's you get more users on desktop, it's going to take you a short amount of time.
That's it. Good job. Excellent job. That's good. Good answer. So that's key. You can slice and dice your test however you want. I have clients that have like an even split 40, 20, like desktop, mobile, and tablet. So like, yeah, we want to just do like mobile and tablet or like desktop and tablet. Sometimes they don't want to test on everything. But then I have guys like, yeah, run it across the board. So it'll vary based upon the client need. But what I want to really communicate here is that you can focus on one segment or the other, but you have to really understand user behavior and where you can drive the most conversion. And also, when you're thinking about prioritizing your backlog, are you trying to find a 5% increase in growth or a 25% increase in growth? Now, for me, I like big swings. You know, I played college tennis. I was a big hitter. I like taking more chances. So if you're asking me, I'm going to lean here, and here's my rationale for 25%. The reason why I want to go for that plus or minus 25% is because you're going to learn more, right? You're going to hack into some growth. If you completely revamp a page and you find that that drives 25% more conversion, or if you just change a small CTA button that drives 4% increase in conversion, what would you rather have? I'm going to take a 25% redesign. So I'll spend more time building up the experiment to hack into that bigger growth. On that same token, if I invest in a higher complexity test that goes down by 25%, holy crap, I just learned. I just learned that users don't want a new experience. And it forced me to go back and think about, how do I think about these smaller experiments that can tap into that bigger insight that we're trying to get to. So impact is something you should keep in mind. So you have reach, you have impact, and then next is confidence. This is where we talk about statistical significance. Are you guys familiar with the concept? Anyone? Stat-sig? So when we're running A/B experiments, what you want to get to is a statistical significance level, right? It's your confidence level. That the variation that you're running is actually a correlation, direct correlation to the user behavior, right? So let's just say, for example, we have our CTA button example. We changed the button from blue to red. We noticed that the red had a 5% increase in conversion, at a 80% statistical significance level. What that stat sig level is telling us that 80% of the time, users have a trend that they're clicking on that CTA button and proceeding further down the funnel. So it's the trend that we're seeing in the data over time that's telling us that the variation change is directly related to the user behavior. Okay? That's about as simple of a definition. Statistic is a little bit more complex than that. There's a lot more nuance. That's about as basic as anyone can ever explain it to you.
A couple questions on the confidence. So, one, when you're choosing attributes and things like that, right, it's going to lessen the sample size.
Yeah.
How do you kind of balance out adding more and more attributes, and then it's going to take weeks of testing? And also, I know, obviously, if there's big swing, it's going to be way less sample size than you need, but in general, like, how many visits-ish do you need to get significance for most sites?
Great question. So there's the optimizing sample size calculator. You type in the change that you're trying to see. So if I want to see a 5% change in the experiment, it's going to give you the sample size that you need to kind of get to that full stat sig level. You can also insert in that calculator the number of the stat sig number that you want. Let's say you want to get a 90% stat sig level. It'll probably take longer to get to that point. But if you want to see like a 70% level, it'll probably take a lot less. To answer your question on attributes, which is a very good question, you have to think about trade-offs, right? Because you can assign attributes till the cows come home. But at the end of the day, you want to get an insight about your user and what are the key things you want to have to check. You want to check the box off on. So maybe you want to focus on mobile, first-time users using Safari and Chrome, right? Maybe you keep it that simple. But if you start to break down into like geolocations, like IP addresses, where are they on the country, where tracks they came from, you complicate things a little bit. And it also takes longer, as you mentioned, to get to that stat sig level. So I would say, I'd always recommend for like the newer client is to simplify the attributes. And then as you become more sophisticated and test more, then you start to focus on those specific segments and attributes of users. So I don't recommend attributing like fully right off the bat. I think it's something you test into. Okay. I see another hand. Confidence is very big. And the last is easy. So this is the easy button from Staples. You want to make sure that you have a relatively low lift on these experiments, right? Sometimes those smaller, easier experiments can lead and yield more positive results than you would anticipate. So start easy, then work your way to more complex.
Can I go back to confidence? So is 80% the confidence level really the shooting for?
No, you want to shoot for 95 and above.
Yeah.
I actually don't stop my experiment, or I don't come to a conclusion until I get to 99%.
Oh, really?
Optimizing will kick it green at 90%, so that one line I showed you at the beginning of the presentation.
Yes.
It'll become green at 90%, that's like the baseline. I don't stop until it gets to the full 99%.
Okay, but so for things like Facebook, right, those ads, like get tired. So I put an ad up, right, and it lasts for 4 days and then it really tails off.
Yeah.
Because it's tired. So how do you kind of, I guess, either pre-calculate that or, I don't know, deal with it? I mean, at some point it's just like, okay, it's a dead ad. It's not, people are blind to it now.
Definitely more of an advertising question, but I can totally tackle that. You have to think about, first off, is your message getting to the right audience? So maybe your message is great for the current demographic you're going after, but they've seen it already.
Right.
Maybe you're going after the wrong market. So if I'm an advertising executive and I run a test for 4 days and it's done great with a certain demographic for a couple of days, but then it's tailored off, I was like, okay, we have to either freshen up the content, keep it to the same market, or pivot to a different market. So we don't do a ton of ad-based testing. No.
Wow.
We don't do that often. It's a little more complex. It's a little bit more complex in terms of like the channeling, and so we don't really get into that as much. We just really focus on specific sites. Good question. Yeah.
How do you decide on the reach? Like,
so here, I think we talked about this a little bit already, but I think what's really, really important to think about is where are you finding the most conversion? So I'm gonna make an argument now for desktop. 70% here of the traffic coming from desktop. What I would like to think about here is conversion might be higher there. So I want to focus my experiments on optimizing for that channel. So when I'm coming through ideation, and I'm thinking about test ideas, I'm thinking about desktop for that 70%. Because that mobile experience is going to be drastically different. So I think about conversion slightly differently. Let's just take, for example, a counter argument. Let's say desktop is maxed out. All the traffic's coming there, we're not going to squeeze any more juice out of that. We got to think about innovative ways to engage users to convert on mobile. We're seeing a lot more mobile engagement. Everyone here has a cell phone. How do you get someone to buy a product? So you got to serve up the right experience for them that's going to frictionlessly drive them down funnel to order confirmation and beyond quickly, right? So it's making the, I don't know, for example, like shipping information easy to input. Like if you have some of these fields that are like super, it's like click, like be precise, I have big fingers, like being precise at certain fields on mobile, it's going to add more time. That's not going to make it convert. So how do you think about innovative ways to hack into making that checkout experience frictionless and seamless? So you can argue either way, right? But ultimately you have to have the other supported data, like GA, like Hotjar, that's going to drive forward that priority in your roadmap. So you can make an argument for either one. Personally, I've seen a lot of clients like do both, but the experience will be slightly different on mobile. So when we're looking at the insights, we'll segment it out. We'll say, okay, what was desktop? What was that breakout versus what was mobile? And sometimes we'll see desktop do poorly and then mobile kill it. So we'll say, okay, let's not target this on desktop. Let's definitely put this on mobile.
So part of building the customer experience is making sure that anytime the customer is interacting with the product, it's consistent, right? So one issue that I found in my own mishaps is that I like using the desktop, but when I go to use the mobile, there's a button that I now can't find. So how do you deal with those kind of situations?
Great question. And the key, I'm going to give you the answer of like educating users. So let's say, for example, you have a very familiar desktop flow, and the user's now signing in for the first time on mobile. What we've done is use this thing called Chalk Talk, and it pretty much educates users on the features on the page, on the mobile experience. Like this is where this button is. This will take you to this page. This will drive you backwards, this will drive you forwards. So the Chalk Talk is like arrows and icons and overlays that'll educate you on the differences in that mobile experience compared to desktop. So that's one tool that we use. But there's a lot of other things you can do as well. You can think about now starting up a unique landing page, like continue where you left off from the desktop experience. So you serve up different experiences there. You can just think about, okay, setting up a reminder. Maybe you found a product, you put it in your basket, 2 days later you're on mobile, the product's right there on your phone. Hey, think about this product? I've done that test for Tory Burch, showed a 20% increase in conversion. So it's like someone on desktop added a product to their bag, like someone wanted a pair of shoes, 2 days later on mobile, oh wow, I remember these shoes now. Try to put them on. So you have to think about how do you educate users? How do you inform them? How do you serve them up the right information at the right time? Kind of going back to your first question. So that's very important to understand the nuanced behavior between different devices. Really good question. So this is the Ian Rice method. At the end of the day, what you want to do is focus on giving your customers love. You want to understand who they are. Like, you got to be passionate about who they are. I gave an example before about Staples. I helped launch their print marketing services business, design.staples.com. It allows you to customize banners, posters online. I ended up spending 2 weeks in Staples locations talking to customers that wanted business cards and banners. I said, what do you want? What are you looking for? What do you come to Staples for today? I want cheap, easy to use, with my logo on the business cards. I was like, awesome, that's great. We have to build an experience for you. So at the end of the day, it's being passionate and have caring for your users to drive the right experience forward. All right, we're getting towards the end here. So in order to develop key competencies for program success, you should follow these things. You want to drive a culture of experimentation. So test often, learn and iterate, that's really key. You want to track strategic insights and develop a playbook. So figure out what works, because the strategy for your e-commerce customers is going to be vastly different than your B2B lead gen customers, and your technology customers. It's all going to be different. However, what you can do is develop a repository. I keep a log of all the experiments that won and what those changes were. Then I have all the experiments that lost and what we did for them. Keep in mind, there are some that are in the loss column that lost for a B2B client, but ended up winning for an e-com client. So you learn from that, like, wow, that didn't work there, but could it actually work for an e-com client? And sometimes it does. So keep a repository and playbook of what's been working for you. Log everything, that's really important. This is probably a tougher part that you guys probably don't have control of, unless you're managing a budget. But you have to augment and build out your team to support testing and building these experiments. Ultimately, by doing that, you'll be able to increase velocity and unify a lot of cross-functional teams. Testing shouldn't just be one team or one department. You should be able to actually cross-pollinate across a bunch of different teams within an organization, because a great test might come from finance or marketing. You want to try to build that culture and unify all those cross-functional teams. I think testing is a pretty easy task to outsource, but what's really key is you have to have a dedicated engineering team that's focused on this stuff, because it's pretty complex and you can dive into the weeds. So in order to develop a core competency, you got to focus on having a robust development resource. Yeah.
So in core metrics, when you guys running your sprints for these tests, I would assume that your retrospectives are longer days where you sit down and figure out what you learned and take that.
Maybe not days, maybe a day or a part of a day.
Right.
When we have retrospectives, I think at Chrometrics, they've been, I don't want to say negative, but we see what broke, what went wrong, right? So those probably take us up a couple of hours. So we look at everything from, as a PM, when I got the requirements from the client, to the spec that I built, to the engineering queue, and how they took it in and built it, what happened in QA, what got passed to the client, and what was launched in production. So you look at all these different stages throughout that product lifecycle, and we break down where the bottlenecks were, where things went sideways, and how do we improve in the next test going forward. So the connotation for a retrospective is like, let's look at what the test was and why it went wrong, why was it broken, why did we find bugs on production. It doesn't happen as frequently with me anymore, but like when I was first testing a lot, you caught a lot of bugs in production. And that's stuff that got through QA, stuff that got through development. And so you look back, like, okay, what process we put in place to avoid that? And so we have a very thorough checklist now that helps us quell those issues from happening.
So you talked about track for strategic insights. Do you have like a total tagging mechanism by which you have a tag that kind of says, okay, red button and learn more and person with a hat for what the ad was, and then have the data flow in there and say, do you do it that way, or is it more like I'm going to take notes on it, or I'm going to build my own curate my own spreadsheet? How automated is that, or how comprehensive is that?
It's not automated, unfortunately. We do it all manually. So for experiments, like for example, we do change that CTA button. We look at the metrics that we're associated with that test build. Let's say we want to look at clicks on that CTA, but also like the next step was a form. Who submitted that form? Who returned back to the site? What was the exit rate? So there's a bunch of different metrics that can tell the story. So maybe we saw like a decrease in exit rate, so it's great. Users are staying on the site, but we didn't see a lot of submissions. So you got to I keep a spreadsheet that quantifies all those metrics for the test, what the change was, links to everything, etc. So I do that all manually. That hasn't been automated yet. That would be a huge time saver. Final exam, last one. So this one is looking at a company called Vector Cutco. You guys familiar? They sell knives. Do you know Cutco?
Yeah, the knife company.
We test to get people to sell knives. That's exactly what we do. So the company that Vector Cutco uses is called Work for Students. So Work for Students is an employment agency that goes after college kids that want to sell, that can hire them to sell knives. So the baseline here, looking at variation A, it's just the pay rate. So as you can see, this is the mobile experience. They say these are available in your city for existing evidence connected to you. Under that, we have this blurb, and it says, pay starts at $15.50 for a base appointment. Please complete and submit the form below to begin the interview process. So pretty straightforward, pay rate added above the fold, and a multi-step conversion form. So this is step one. You enter your name, information, you click next, you go to the next step. So we're testing here. Just making that clear.
Step one.
Step one. Step two. I'm sorry. Variation B. Step one. This is what we added. You're looking at this like, holy crap. This is a lot of stuff to read. So I'll give you a moment to read it. So the change we're seeing, much more text, seeing much more description. This is a note from the manager. Keep in mind it's personalized with someone named Nicholas. But variation B has this longer, elongated note. But I also want to draw your attention here. What do you see? You saw first name only. You see first name, last name, next. Show of hands. Variation A is the winner. Variation B.
I think A.
You think A? So I think we're
People
split.
don't read.
This is an
like the science proof.
This is
People
the
don't
first
read.
even split that I've had on this test, and it's going to be very interesting when you see the results.
I mean, B makes sense, but.
So this is one of our metrics. The goal was completed applications. So those that went through the funnel and completed the form,
All steps.
we saw a slight improvement in A for completed applications, so 14.4 versus 13.6. Marginal conversion rate increase. Okay? This is the big one though. Schedule the interview. Users were completing the applications more with variation A, but ultimately that note from the manager created a personalized connection that drove more interviews. This is why we set up a lot of metrics for our experiment, because it tells that full story. So pay rate was great, still an improvement, 16% lift, but that detailed note from the manager, which takes forever to read, was driving more of what? Qualified sales leads.
Well, because you told me I could be working, this tells you a lot more, right? I could be working in a week, and I don't really have to work for a lot. I mean, you can see how.
But think about it. So here's the lens. I'm coming at this from a college student. I was a college student a long time ago, but I'm like, wow, let's keep it simple. Let's keep it. I think this would win. But then ultimately, this more detailed description is winning out. And you can't even figure out what the next step is on above the fold.
But it gives you, but it also, it addresses stuff, they don't have to click in order to get their questions addressed there. And then they also sit on a first come, first served basis, so that kind of puts a little bit of urgency.
It does, that's exactly
And then
right.
you could be working within a week, that's like fast, oh good.
You nailed it.
Making money, right?
You nailed it.
Awesome.
You nailed it. I saw your hand go up. Talk to me.
Just a question, is this screen scrollable? Like, can you just scroll and see?
This is a scrollable screen. I'm sorry that it's not scrollable here, but yes, it is.
Oh, so it shows you then that there's just last name and next. as
So
well.
you will see these two fields next. I'm sorry, these two fields, first name, last name, and then the CTA.
Okay.
Sorry if it wasn't clear.
And how many more variants did you do on this? Like, did you make another one where there was a personalized note and
Yes,
the
it's the
CTA was
fifth
above the
one.
fold? Because
You're there. You're going to be a great A/B tester. So we ended up iterating for sure. We ended up actually making this hideable, so you could actually click and hide it instead of having it all laid out for you. We've also added a map. So you see Schenectady right here. It's in New York. It's a region of New York. So how many Cutco offices are there? Not a lot. I'd say they're in specific regions. So we put a map of the regions instead of Schenectady. Or we had Schenectady and then the map beside it. So we did iterate on this a bunch. Let's package it all up. So this is the summary slide. As I mentioned, this is to talk about doing that makes the money. What I hoped I helped enforce today is making testing a core component of your strategy as a business. It's important to not only test, but develop strategic customer data. And you're not gonna get that in one test one time. It takes multiple tests, takes multiple iterations to ultimately unlock that full learning about your users. In order to kickstart your growth program, you can start it by yourself or without, or with a partner. In order to do that, you want to identify what the most important KPI is. Prioritize your experiments based upon impact to your business and its ability to achieve your business goal. And then we also cannot leave without saying, the more that you test, the more accelerated throughput you have, the more you learn about your users, and the faster you guys will learn more about, unlock the full potential of your growth program. So that's the presentation. Any additional questions about stuff I didn't cover?
So there's been like an ongoing idea about data being driven. And then there's this new thing out about not being data driven, but being data aware, where data can actually lead you down the wrong path. Is that something that you've run into in your work? Or?
If you define leading down the wrong path as taking data, creating an experiment that fails, and like has a negative impact on conversion and revenue, if you consider that to be a failure, then I've totally done that. Data aware versus data driven. I think data is key. It's key to what I do on a daily basis for my job. I'm not just aware about it, I leverage it to help the client achieve success. So I'm not just saying, okay, I'm aware that that's how a user interacting with the experience. I'm not just keeping it in the back of my mind, I keep it at the forefront of my mind. I'm making sure that it's an integral part of how I'm building an experiment. So I would say I'm not just data aware, I'm data driven, data forward. On all my business approaches, not just for career metrics, but like even personally. I like to quantify like, calorie counts, like how much I'm running, and like all that stuff. So I'm not just data aware, I'm data driven for sure.
So as far as your company specifically, so would you mind explaining the sales process? Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. We have, that's a great question. We have a business development team, and we also are a partner with Optimizely. So we get a lot of sales leads from them directly, because ultimately when a client will sign up for Optimizely, they'll get us as a partner. So we get a lot of leads in terms of like, hey, Staples looking to buy Optimizely, so you should reach out to them. So that'll come from Optimizely. We also have our biz dev team that's proactively networking and reaching out and trying to get new business. So that's the start of the process, right? We offer this program, it's called an Accelerate. It's 3 months, limited hour engagement where we whet your beak on testing. So we give you a couple of experiments, we build them out for you, we walk through the bells and whistles of the platform. We see if testing is the right strategy for you. In some instances, they'll say, hey, we love you guys, we want to partner with you, let's continue this. Other cases, like, great, awesome working with you, we can do this by ourselves. So it'll depend. But so it starts with like our biz dev team, goes through those accelerate programs. Or sometimes someone knows, we want to start testing now, here we want Optimizely, but we don't have a team. Can you be our team? So a lot of cases, I feel like I'm an extension of their team. So I spend a lot of time traveling. I go to like my clients in New York, clients in San Francisco, clients in Texas. I'm always spending time on site.
Oh, now follow up to that.
Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, so is it Statistical Tory Birch an enterprise company?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So as far as like, let's say pitching to them, I'm just wondering like, as far as like the business development team exactly. So I'm just curious, like in this case, when you sold to them, was Tory Birch herself actually involved in the acquisition?
Tory Birch, no. I wasn't there for this. This is probably, they've been a client of ours for like 3.5 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, something.
So I'm just wondering,
They've
like,
been a client for a while. I wasn't involved in that pitch, but Tory Birch like wasn't in the room. But like the digital team, like the digital SVP and director were in there.
All right. And as far as like exactly like how you pitch it, how you get to the right management and the turnaround time is securing the deal. I'm just wondering for like, let's say an enterprise.
Definitely a biz dev question. I'm not as well versed in like the whole biz dev, new business stuff, but what I can say is that we give a lot of new clients a trial. We're like, hey, we want to educate you on the platform, see if it's the right thing for you, and then build out an experiment. And if they like what they're seeing, or if they're like, wow, this is way over my head, or if I can do this myself, they'll choose either partner with us or not partner with us.
Oh, okay.
So,
Fair enough.
good biz dev question.
All right.
I'm answering advertising and biz dev questions too, so this is awesome.
I have a question. So how much of it is insight from the customers when you're trying to build that plan with those ideas, and like, you know, how much of it is you're interacting with your client and also the customers, like in order to ideate?
That's a really good question.
Like, because we talked about everything else, but like coming to the quest point.
You gotta have, it's a balance, right? Because I've worked in enterprise product management at Staples and Wayfair, and I've seen a lot of things work in them. So in the back of my mind, I have a lot of the experiences that are ultimately saying, hey, this does work and this doesn't work. So let's either gravitate towards one thing or stray away from the other. And the other half of the coin is, what is the user behavior for that specific client? And that's gonna vary for everyone, right? I wish I could just say, like, there's a consistent trend in all women's e-commerce retailers. But there are subtle nuances to every single one of them, right? Because, like for example, Coach is a competitor of Tory Burch. They have a unique experience that's different than what Tory Burch's is. So they're obviously trying to go after maybe the same customer, but approaching their tactics for converting them in two different ways. So,
is there like a framework that you guys follow, and at least understanding something as a base?
I don't think so. To answer your question, not necessarily. We do have like we have a common pool repository of like learnings. So that's super helpful for me. So I can go in and see like e-commerce clients, what's worked. We get kicked out of here. What's worked, what's not worked. And then we can ultimately create a test plan based upon historical winning experiments, right? So it's a unique blend. It's both a science, numerical, looking at all the quantitative data, and it's also an art. Like, how do you create this beautiful experience? So everyone in the room is going to have a unique product manager persona, right? So there's like, you can be a business product manager, a creative product manager, a technical product manager. For me personally, I'm more of like a business/creative product manager. And what's really important is playing to your strengths, because if you're a TPM or technical product manager, you might just be looking at data. You might just like be like this, have 4 spawners on, I'm only gonna look at the numbers. But for me, I'm like, okay, from a business perspective, how do the numbers work? Is this cost effective to do this test? Is it gonna drive the needle up and to the right significantly? And also, like, is it creating an easy to use user behavior or user experience? So I'm walking that balance on a daily basis. And I'm driven by my experiences and what I've seen win and lose. So I wish there was a framework for that. I think I should spend time in a room for a couple weeks and create one. But that's definitely an opportunity. I'm sure that one exists, but I don't use one personally.
You can write a book online.
That's exactly right.
Do you have an opinion on dummy variables? Because I've heard conflicting things. On one side, you know, it's ease of sprints and changing velocity, like the Amazons of the world are notorious for that. You know, it sends you to the puppy page, which is just a dead page.
I know, yeah.
But on the other hand, like, it's a dead part of your site.
I typically don't use them. No, my opinion is like, I don't think they're that effective. Maybe if you're at the scale of Amazon, you can see it being effective, but
What is this you're
So
describing?
basically, you have a button that doesn't actually do anything particularly. It can either send you to an error page, or it sends you, but it's instead of building out the back end
Right.
of
It's a smoke test.
yeah.
Okay.
So we've done smoke tests, we've used dummy variables before. We just don't find that they effective or work. So personally, I try to lean in towards the more impactful, less confusing experience is going to drive users directly to where we want them to go. So if you just said, if they click on add to bag, I want that product to go to my bag and then go to the cart. I don't want to go to a public page. I want to go exactly where I want to direct my users to. Yes?
Can you maybe talk about one very recent failed experiments?
For sure, absolutely. I've had a couple. Recent, probably earlier this year. So, are you guys familiar with sticky navigations? Sticky nav menus. So, if you have I'll describe it to you verbally. So, when you have a page and you're scrolling down with your cursor, the top navigation menu has like the different category links. Can sometimes be lost as you scroll down the page. So you have to scroll back up to ultimately find like, those different category links. So I thought a great idea would be for the client to have that top nav bar sticky as you scroll down the page. Right. And so what we ended up finding was that users were going to a page they shouldn't have been going to, and it was because it was right in front of their face. So we're trying to use the convert and like submit a form. We're actually driving them away. So we saw a higher increase in clicks on that top menu, which was great, but we were not achieving our business goal, which was driving more form submissions. So we saw like a 32 or 33% drop in submissions because we were giving users a way off of the page. Did it improve the user experience? Absolutely. But did it meet our business goal? It did not. So that was a failed test, but it ultimately helped us realize that, okay, this might improve the user experience, but like we're not getting what we want out of it. So that was a failed test that I launched. And as that full significance, that was a loser.
I was going to ask, who are your biggest competitors and what are the biggest obstacles?
From Chrometrics perspective?
Yes.
Companies are called Clearhead, Wider Funnel. Those are two ones that stand out. But they do what we do. They're consultants that run A/B testing programs. We at Chrometrics focus primarily on Optimizely. I think that they leverage a couple of different tools. So that maybe gives them a little bit more flexibility and ability to be nimble, but there's limitations to those other tools. So I feel like we're kind of limited with Optimizely. So those are competitors. Was there a part two of that?
What are the biggest obstacles?
For Chrometrics?
Yes.
Scaling. So we're still like sub 100 employee company. Where I think we're competitive and have a strong advantage is our remote. Everyone's all across the country, which is fantastic. But we use Slack to communicate to everyone, and some people like respond super quickly. Some people will respond for like a day. So you can't like walk up to somebody in the office and like tap them on the shoulder. So that's maybe one obstacle we have to kind of get through. But as we kind of grow bigger and take on more clients, you got to find. We have like I think 15 PMs that are like me. It's tough to find good talent, to be quite honest with you. Not everyone can do this job because it requires you being responsive at all hours. Like I probably miss like 30 emails right now from clients on the West Coast or one in Israel. So you have to be available at all hours. You have to be able to find people that not only know A/B testing but have like a creative eye that are able to project manage the life cycle of a product and like communicate very frequently on a daily basis with clients. So as we get bigger, take on more clients, we need more talent. But I've seen candidates come through the pipeline and they don't have great communication skills, or they don't know how to manage a dev queue in Jira. They're not good at like creating specs, designing. So I think as we get bigger, that's the biggest obstacle.
Great.
We
Yeah.
have one last.
Last question.
Last question. Thank you.
Kind of on the flip side of our earlier question is like, what are the most kind of successful cases that you've had? How effective can this kind of strategy?
That's a really good question. So I've transformed Viking Cruises' testing program. Earlier this year, they became a client, brand new client, I took them on. I had two like huge money-making test wins. So Viking's business, not to give away the secret sauce, but like they traditionally didn't have an online booking experience, so you couldn't book a cruise online. You had to pretty much call a rep. What I did was pull that request to quote step up in the experience to make it like at step 2 instead of at step 5. Drove like 150% lift in form submissions, and big impact to the business. Monetarily, they did really well from that, and so they hard-coded it like shortly after we got to significance. We did a couple other smaller experiments that like significantly moved the needle for like form submissions. So that's a big goal, right? So we were able to achieve their goal through like strategically placing that form throughout the site in places where of high traffic. So that's how we were able to unlock growth. And now, as I kind of mentioned, we're testing to the online booking experience. So that's a great success story.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
All right, guys, thank you so much.